Once upon a time, there lived a humble farmer with his only son. They weren't wealthy, but they were content with their simple life. They owned a small plot of land where they grew crops, and most importantly, they had a strong, beautiful horse that helped with the farm work. One day, disaster struck. The farmer woke up to find that their only horse had broken through the fence and run away into the hills. The horse was their most valuable possession. Without it, plowing the fields and transporting goods would be nearly impossible. The farmer's son was devastated, fearing for their future. The neighbors, hearing the news, came by to offer their condolences. "What terrible luck you've had," they said, shaking their heads in sympathy. They all agreed that losing the horse was a big misfortune, one that would set the farmer and his son back for a long time. But the farmer, known for his calm and steady demeanor, simply smiled and said, "Maybe." The villagers were confused by his response. They expected him to be sad or angry. After all, the loss of a horse was a major setback for any farmer. But the farmer didn't seem too worried. His son, however, couldn't help but feel frustrated. He didn't understand how his father could be so calm when their future seemed uncertain. A week passed, and the farmer and his son adjusted to life without the horse. They had to work harder, doing all the farm tasks by hand. The villagers continued to pity them, shaking their heads as they passed by the farm. Then, something unexpected happened. One morning, the farmer's son looked out toward the hills and saw a movement in the distance. At first, he thought his eyes were playing tricks on him, but as the figures came closer, he realized it was their horse returning. Not only had the horse come back, but it had brought with it a wild stallion, a strong and magnificent creature. The son ran to his father, overjoyed. "Father, the horse has returned, and it's brought a friend." The villagers quickly gathered around the farm to see the remarkable sight. "What incredible fortune!" they exclaimed. "Not only do you have your horse back, but now you have two. You're luckier than ever." The farmer smiled, watching the two horses graze peacefully. Once again, he simply said, "Maybe." The villagers were puzzled. How could he respond with such indifference? After all, wasn't this clearly a stroke of good luck? His son too was confused, but didn't question his father's calm response. A few days later, the son, excited to have two horses, decided to tame the wild stallion. He wanted to make the most of their good fortune. He spent hours each day trying to train the horse, determined to turn it into a useful asset for the farm. But the stallion was strong-willed and difficult to control. Then, one afternoon, while trying to ride the wild horse, the son was thrown off its back and hit the ground hard. He heard a sharp crack as pain shot through his leg. His father rushed over, and they quickly realized that the son's leg was broken. The villagers soon heard about the accident and came to offer their sympathy. "What a terrible tragedy," they said. "Now your son is injured, and he won't be able to help you on the farm for months. Just when things were looking up, this happens. What bad luck." The farmer, tending to his son's injury, calmly replied, "Maybe." His response once again left the villagers bewildered. Why wasn't he more upset? His son had been hurt, and now the farm would fall even further behind. Yet the farmer remained as composed as ever. Weeks passed, and the son's leg slowly healed, though he remained bedridden. The villagers continued to pity the farmer for his misfortune, but he carried on with his work as best he could. Then, one day, a group of soldiers rode into the village. There was unrest in the kingdom, and the soldiers were there to draft every able-bodied young man into the army. The villagers were terrified, knowing that many of their sons would be taken away to fight in a war that seemed far from home and dangerous. One by one, the soldiers rounded up the young men in the village, including many of the farmer's neighbors. The farmer's son, however, was spared. Because of his broken leg, he was deemed unfit for military service and was left at home to recover. The villagers, now seeing this turn of events, marveled at the outcome. "What incredible luck," they said. "Because of his injury, your son has been spared from going to war. While our sons are being taken away, yours remains safe. Truly, everything happens for a reason." The farmer listened to their words and smiled softly. "Maybe," he replied, as calmly as ever. The villagers were stunned by his consistent response. By now, they began to understand that the farmer saw the world differently than they did. He didn't rush to label events as good or bad. Instead, he accepted each moment for what it was, recognizing that life was full of twists and turns, and that what seemed like misfortune could sometimes lead to unexpected blessings. As time went on, the farmer's son healed completely, and the two of them returned to working the land together. They had their horses, their health, and their home. The villagers, now familiar with the farmer's wisdom, no longer rushed to label every event as fortunate or tragic. Instead, they began to see life through the same lens of calm acceptance that the farmer embodied. The farmer's quiet "maybe" became a lesson for the whole village. They learned that life is unpredictable, full of both joy and sorrow, but that it's not always possible to know the true significance of any event in the moment. Sometimes, what appears to be bad luck can turn out to be a blessing in disguise, and vice versa. And so, the story of the farmer and his son became a lasting reminder that life is a journey filled with uncertainty. It taught the villagers, and anyone who heard the tale, to embrace the unknown, to trust in the flow of events, and to understand that everything has its own time and place in the grand scheme of things. In the end, the farmer's wisdom was simple but profound. Life isn't about labeling each moment as good or bad. It's about living fully, trusting the process, and recognizing that everything happens for a reason, even if that reason isn't immediately clear. Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more inspiring tales and lessons from everyday life.